next to him. And for some reason, I was live on YouTube, but I had nothing showing on the screen. Oh my God, what is wrong with me? Let's see. So I'm just going to share that. I'm just killing a little time. Okay, Josh, let me look for your question, and we'll go from there. Okay. What does Josh have for me? I know he sent me. The best way to get your questions read is to send me a gift. Doesn't have to be a lot. Sent Rose 2 times. Thank you, Josh. I not seen a question, but I know sometimes you don't have a question. Oh, you sent a finger heart too. Thank you. Oh, what do you think the Jacksonville running back situation is looking like? Oh God. Well, I know that they were in here a bunch. Tank Bigsby, ETN, limited in practice, limited in practice. Well, I guess the main thing about the, and I'm going through the gifters right now. The main thing about the Jacksonville running is that, they have, I think now it's a 3-headed monster technically. Let me just look that up. Because ETN, Bigsby, and well, D'Ernest Johnson got a bunch of carries a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if they're sticking with that, but they could. Okay, let's just see. ETN hamstring. Fantasy managers can hold him for another week if they please, but it is fair to consider dropping him if players with higher upside are available on waivers. That's what Roto World is suggesting. Roto Wire says it's hard to know what kind of role ETN will have in a backfield that also includes Tank Bigsby and D'Ernest Johnson. So, thank you, Tyler. You will be next after Josh. Thank you for the rose. I do appreciate that. Or the roses, I should say. Okay, so when it comes to Travis Etienne, it looks like maybe to avoid him to some degree because there won't be a lot of much use for him moving forward. I need to move this phone up. Okay, this is going to be a little jerky, but I need to move this phone up because everything is really low. There we go. All right. So ETN is kind of out. Let's look up what they're saying about Bigsby, who did have some carries right over the weekend. Well, I know he did. he had 2.2 points on 8 attempts. Tank Bigsby was limited on practice. Feel very okay. Fantasy managers who can afford to stash Bigsby should feel free to keep him on their bench. So basically, what they're saying is you can get rid of ETN if something better's on waivers, or you can hide him on your bench. Bigsby, hide him on your bench, or if you can get something better on waivers, get that. And then the other item is with D'Ernest Johnson. I don't think that he's doing that much to get that. So that's just kind of what I'm looking at this point. I wouldn't touch any one of them. I wouldn't start any of them. As fantasy football experts say, you can roster him. Okay, whatever. Roster's not a verb, but you can have him. You can keep him and bury him on your bench for a while and see if it picks up. But I wouldn't start any of them. So that's all I'm saying about that. Okay, I hope that answered your question, Josh. Let's go to Tyler. See what Tyler's questions are. Sideline fans like the live. How did I do that? Tyler sent a rose. Thank you. Okay. Hey, Josh, thank you for that rose. Thank you. If you have anything else, just let me know. Okay, start BTJ, CD, Montgomery, Stevenson, or Pearsall. Only pick one? Oh, Tyler. Well, CD, I'm skeptical about because of the quarterback rush. Montgomery would be my main target, but because I do not always remember who teams play, unlike everybody else on TikTok and YouTube who does. That's the one thing they got on me. Oh man, what's going on here? I can't type ESPN right. I'm not drunk. I don't drink really. It's not that I'm opposed to drinking. I just don't drink. Okay. So we got to look at Detroit here. I don't know what's going on. Detroit plays Houston. How does Houston do against running backs? Let's just look. Oh, God. Let's look that up real quick. Houston. The Texans. Oh. I'm going the wrong way. Texans are pretty good against the run. So they're number 4 for running backs, like the toughest, 4th toughest is Chiefs, Chargers, Eagles, Texans, Ravens, who give up the fewest points to a running back. So that's not a great matchup. If we're looking at just matchups, Tyler, it's not a great matchup. Yeah, I figured you gave up. You gave a lot. Okay, so then I just don't know. Like, okay, if Dak was playing, I could maybe say CD. But with Rush out there, I don't know how good Rush is going to be. So let me look at BTJ, see who Jacksonville plays here. I really don't memorize who people play. I figure I can just look it up, but it always takes me a while. Okay, so BTJ plays Minnesota, which probably isn't going to be a great matchup. Wide receiver, Minnesota. Oh, hey, look, we got 7 people viewing right now. It's just like I'm on my computer. I don't know what's going on. I fluctuate like crazy now. I guess people get tired of me. Okay, Minnesota, the Vikings. Where are the Vikings? For wide receivers, that is. Ooh, the Vikings are dead last in points to wide receivers. Well, so far, based on the matchup, Tyler, I'm going with BTJ. Okay. Am I freezing up? I'm stuck at 7 people. That's just weird. Okay. Stevenson or Pearsall. See, I'm not even going to look up CD because of Rush. I want to see what Rush does for 1 week with CD because I would, I mean, if you want to go like, take a gamble, but to me, it's a huge gamble and you don't know how that's going to pay off. Now, I'll look up Pearsall and Stevenson, but as I've been saying about Stevenson, okay, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go with Pearsall. Yeah, I wouldn't go with Pearsall. He just doesn't have enough. He just doesn't have enough time right now. So don't forget on YouTube, Jav Martinez. Should I trade Montgomery, Hunt, and McConkey for CMC? Okay, I'll get to you in just a second. I'm finishing up Tyler. I wouldn't go with Pearsall. We don't have enough information. Plus, CMC's back. I think he's going to be, or he should be back this weekend. So I wouldn't go with Pearsall because I think that a lot of the attention will be on CMC, at least for that offense. Okay, so then it leaves us with Stevenson, but I want to just check something with Stevenson before I talk about him. Okay, so we got Stevenson, who had 2 good weeks, 22 and 19.9 points, Tyler. And I don't know if you've been on any of my last few streams or anything like that, but the one thing with Stevenson is his point total for the last 2 weeks have been buoyed because he's gotten 2 touchdowns. He had 19.9 last week, so he only really had, if you minus 12 there, 7.9 or whatever it is. And the week before he had 22, minus 12, he had 10. Okay, now you can't take away the touchdowns, but you also can't plan for the touchdowns. So that's where I think there's a disconnect. That's the one thing that worries me about Stevenson is that his point total relies on his touchdowns because he only had 48 yards in the last 2 weeks, 48 yards rushing was his highest total, and 38 yards receiving was his highest total. And those were 2 different weeks. So it's not like he's getting a combined 100 yards. He's not getting 100 yards rushing. He's not getting 100 yards receiving. So it's going to be really tough from my standpoint anyway. So I would go with BTJ because Minnesota has a really bad defense against running backs. They're 32nd in the NFL. Now, if you want to maybe take a safer route, Montgomery's probably going to get, pretty close to what he normally gets point-wise, maybe a little bit less. Maybe rather than 14 or 15, he gets 11 or 12. So he's a little bit steadier. BTJ should get you a decent day based on Minnesota's defense against wide receivers, rather. I almost said running backs. Okay, I think we're caught up on gifts. If I'm not, you can just yell at me, put in all caps. Even if Lawrence doesn't play? What? Is Lawrence not playing? Oh, I didn't realize he was injured. Okay, hold on 1 second. You're talking about... Oh, man. Hold on. Trevor Lawrence's shoulder was limited in Wednesday's practice. Lawrence banged up his shoulder in last week's loss to the Eagles and could be limited in practice through the week ahead of Sunday's game against the Vikings. Mac Jones would get the start if Lawrence is unable to play. Okay, well, that is good information. I would say you would go with Montgomery then. If Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback, then you could go with BTJ, but then you got to ask yourself, what if he re-injures that shoulder? So I would probably go with Montgomery either way because he consistently puts up a good amount of points. In Detroit, as you know, they keep everybody fresh by thank you, Tyler, for the additional roses. I really appreciate that. They keep everybody fresh because they had that two-headed monster between Gibbs and Montgomery. Okay. I'm going to go to YouTube real quick. If Jav Martinez is still around, should I trade Montgomery, Hunt, and McConkey for CMC? It's not a bad deal considering Hunt is sort of a short timer. Pacheco's going to come back. So in about 3 weeks, you're really only trading Montgomery and McConkey for CMC. So that's not if you're trying to get CMC and you're giving away Montgomery, Hunt, and McConkey for CMC. Hey, Nathaniel. It's not a bad trade at all. All right. I have Lamar, Henry, CD, Swift, Pickens, Thomas Jr., Pittman, Njoku, and Chubb. Yeah. If you like I said, if you're getting CMC for Montgomery, Hunt, and McConkey, I think it's a good deal. I think it's a really good deal. If you're giving up CMC and getting Montgomery, Hunt, and McConkey, maybe not such a great deal because Hunt, like I said, in 2 to 3 weeks isn't going to have much value. All right. For some reason, we have more people on YouTube than we do on TikTok, and I'm actually on my phone, which usually gets a bigger pickup. All right. Hey, man, quick question. Would you do BTJ, Pickens, and Najee for Hall, Shakir, and Tank Dell? No. I think Pickens is going to have a good second half of the season. What would be a good trade? Wait, are you giving... Okay, Jav Martinez, real quick. Let me jump back to YouTube, and Nathan, I'll get to you next. I promise. Somehow, let me go with Enzo Ferrari 11. I didn't know I was talking to a billionaire right now who makes wonderful cars. Sorry about that, Enzo. I would never keep you on hold like this. But would you do BTJ, Pickens, and Najee for Hall, Shakir, and Tank? I get Hall. I wouldn't do that trade. Pickens, I think, is going to be really good. He's the number one. Tank Dell's value is going to go down when Nico gets in. Breece Hall has been very, very inconsistent moving forward, and Shakir is kind of a hit or miss to a certain extent. He's not as consistent. Well, let me just see the last week. Someone got me on the Trevor Lawrence thing. So now he only had 8 points last week. Giving up Pickens and Najee, even though they're on the same team, I think is a bad move. I think Najee's going to put up, lower end good points for a running back. And I think Pickens is just going to get a little bit better because now that they have Mike Williams, I think it's Williams, right? I think it's going to open up more for Pickens and he's going to have a bigger bigger second half there. All right. Real quick, Nathan, before I get to you, what would be a better trade package? Well, if you're giving up Montgomery, Hunt, and McConkey, and you're trying to get CMC, you might have to swap out Hunt, or you might have to swap out McConkey. I understand Montgomery. I would say you might want to go Montgomery and CD, because I don't think CD is going to have a lot of value. Although then you would just have Pickens, really, right? Henry, Swift. You could go Montgomery and Swift for CMC. Chicago has a pretty tough, they're going up against tough opponents in the second half there. That might be a better one. All right, let me get to Nathan real quick. And if you have any questions, Jab Martinez, and you have TikTok, just send me a direct message. All right, Nathan, Andrews or Gesicki? I have Njoku and Kraft on bye. You have Njoku and Kraft on a bye? Oh, that's bad luck or bad timing. Andrews did not have a good week last week. A lot of people are asking me about Gesicki. Yeah, he had 3 points against Denver, but I think with Cincinnati, let's see what Cincinnati does against tight ends. Cincinnati, maybe they're better than I thought, huh? This is backwards. Yeah, Cincinnati's 28 out of 32. So I would go with Andrews. Except man, you have 2 tight ends and they both have a bye. That is just, I would go with Andrews based on that alone. Denver has a pretty good secondary, and let's see what they do against tight ends. The Broncos are tied for 12th, and the Bengals are 28 out of 32. So I think you'll have a much better day. All right. You're no problem, Jav. Thank you. Let's see. Nathan, I hope I answered that for you. If not, please send me a DM. Nicholas Sareva. Who do I sit if I have to sit one between Jonathan Taylor or Breece Hall? Well, Jonathan Taylor recently hasn't been that consistent, or they haven't played him a lot. That game that Flacco was in, they barely played him, which was almost criminal. He got 7.5 points. The week before, he got 18 or something. Let's see, Hall. Here's Breece Hall in a nutshell. Last 4 weeks, 4 weeks ago, 19, 3 weeks ago, 23, then 9, then 9. I mean, I guess on a bad day over the last couple of weeks, Breece gives you 9 points and Taylor only gives you, well, you know what? Taylor goes up against Buffalo. Buffalo running back wise. Where are they? They're 25th against the running back. So their defense. And then it was Jonathan Taylor and Breece Hall. Breece goes against Arizona. The Cardinals are 24th. So the matchup for either one of them doesn't really. Hey, Daniel Berry, nice to have you on board. It doesn't really matter. I don't think it really matters. I guess on Breece's bad day, at least he gets 9 points. I think you might have a little bit more of an upside with Jonathan Taylor over Breece Hall. Although Breece Hall 3 weeks ago got 23 points, he got 19 points. So I guess I would go with Breece only because I think of Jonathan Taylor as a little bit better than Breece, but I need to take the blinders off and say they're not using him consistently. But I would probably go with Breece because Breece had 9 points last week. Taylor had 7.5. Taylor had 18 points. Earlier in the season, I think he was better than Breece, and he was way more consistent. He's not consistent right now. And so that's why I'm leaning towards Brees. But if Jonathan Taylor was as consistent as he was before the injury, I would go with him. So, all right, let's see. I hope I answered everybody's question so far. Couple things. Apparently we don't have a lot of people on TikTok right now, which is really surprising. On my phone, I've been usually pretty good. Yeah, I was thinking Brees too because I'm worried about Buffalo going too far ahead early and the Colts abandoning the run. Thanks for the opinion. Yeah, I mean that's definitely going to be the case. But I would go with Brees in that scenario. You're 100% right, and I mean, let's face it. Well, Arizona could take a big lead on the Jets, but it's not as likely. So, all right. See, we getting any more people on TikTok? This TikTok stuff says we have 2 people on right now. So, yeah, and it seems like that way too. Don't forget to follow me. Don't forget to hit like. I don't know what's going on with TikTok right now. It's like it was last week. I'm not in the doghouse. I have zero, like I literally have 2 people watching right now. I don't know what's going on. Jay Sosa, are you around still? I'm assuming you are. You like the live. Josh Downs, Tank Dell, Jennings, Leggett, Jamo, start 3. Everybody gives me 5 people to look at, don't they? Well, my initial thought is go with Downs, but let me just look that up. Do we know who the quarterback's going to be? Jay Sosa, Downs, Tank Dell. Well, Dell's going to be sort of put in the background because if Nico comes back, but Dell should have a decent amount because he's the official number 2. And I think you said start 3, right? Jennings, I don't know if I would go with Jennings. I would go Dell and Jamo for sure. Because Jamo he's well rested. All right. Let me look up Leggett real quick. He's had decent. I mean, he's scored 11.4 and 11.9. Well, but it was with the only thing is the last 2 games Bryce Young has been the quarterback, and I need to know who is quarterbacking in Germany because that's where the game is with Carolina. So let me look that up. We are at a snail's pace. I'm also trying to trade away either Nico or Amon-Ra, and I'm wondering who you think does better in the playoffs. You mean the playoffs for fantasy, so it's the regular season. I mean, Nico had up until his injury, he had the highest number of yards receiving in the NFL. So, the Detroit, he's efficient, but he doesn't necessarily pass the ball a lot. You figure he was in that one game, 18 for 18. That's not a lot of passes in the NFL right now. And that's why I would go with Nico. But you got to make sure that he's healthy. You'll get a lot for Amon-Ra. I mean, anybody would take him. Let's see what they say about Andy Dalton here. Andy Dalton was a full participant. So my guess is Dalton is back, which may not be good news for Xavier Leggett because he put up all of his points over the last 2 weeks with Bryce Young at quarterback. But let me look at the depth chart there. All right, Nicholas, thank you for subscribing. And if you're on TikTok, Forget to hit the follow too. Yeah, well, he's number one. Leggett, that is. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would go then Dell, Jamo, and Leggett. They have a little bit better passing quarterback in there, so why not use him? Definitely. All right. Don't forget to hit those likes. We're getting a lot of likes. I find it interesting that I only have 4 people viewing on TikTok right now, but that's probably the truth. I haven't really gotten many updates. I don't know. TikTok sometimes whacks me over the head and like limits the number of viewers at one time. I thought they only did that on my computer. They weren't doing that on my phone. I mean, earlier tonight I had 100 people watching, but I guess a lot of people might be going live about fantasy right now. So Wednesday nights are usually pretty good for me, though. Not just 4 people. I know I'm complaining. I'll shut up. Okay, so fantasy football start 3. We have Cobb. I'm just writing this down because my AD Downs, Hopkins, or McLaurin. Okay, well let's look at Hopkins real quick. Well, there's Downs. Downs plays Buffalo. Downs plays Buffalo. Okay. Let's look at Kupp real quick. Cooper Kupp plays Miami. Hopkins and the Kansas City Chiefs play. I am glad that Hopkins sort of broke out in the last game. They play Denver. That's going to be tough. Surtain's going to be all over Hopkins. You got to start 3 fantasy football. I'm not loving that matchup with Denver because of Surtain. He'll be all over Hopkins. And then let me look up McLaurin. Scary Terry, as they call him. Oh, he goes up against Pittsburgh. Well, that's okay. So let's look at wide receivers. Miami is number 1. It's the toughest. So that's not a good matchup. Buffalo Bills, good Lord, are number 4. Denver is number 8. And Pittsburgh, boy, that is not fun for those 3 receivers. So based on matchups, it would be Downs, Hopkins, McLaurin, because those are 4, 8, and 13. Kupp is going up against Miami. Miami is the toughest defense for wide receivers. They give up the fewest amount of fantasy points, Miami does, to wide receivers. However, when you have Puka and Kupp, I think it makes it a little bit tougher. I actually think that like Denver and Surtain with Hopkins is going to make his day, not so fun, if you will. So I'm out of those names, I would go McLaurin only because Pittsburgh is the highest ranking or the worst ranked defense on wide receivers. So you got to do that. I mean, we only have these 4 names here. Then, I would definitely do Downs. It's number 4, but in Buffalo, you still have Amari Cooper, or he's playing Buffalo. God bless America. Let's just see real quick. Well, I don't know if Pittman's going to play or not. Pierce hasn't done a ton. I mean, Downs is the one getting all the headlines, really, but Pittman, let's see. Let's see what Pittman's condition is. All right, let me just check this out. Pittman didn't practice Wednesday. Wednesday absence have been the norm for Pittman since week 6. He's battling through it. He's shown toughness, wants to be out there with his teammates, so we're just taking it week by week. In the past time he's lost to the Vikings, Pittman logged a 76% snap. I mean, he only has Pittman is not putting up any numbers during these injuries, so but it's really helped Downs a lot. I would go McLaurin, Downs, and then it's a question of, do you want Cooper Kupp and the number 1 defense for against wide receivers in Miami, or do you want Hopkins against Surtain and the number 8 ranked defense against wide receivers in Denver? So it's really pick your poison. I think though that the Chiefs, although obviously there's a lot of injuries, there is opportunities. I don't think Xavier Worthy really does a great deal, but I think Watson had a few extra catches for Kansas City. I don't think Worthy. I mean, he doesn't know where he is on the field. He's out of bounds before. I mean, he didn't look sharp the other night. But you always have Travis Kelce. I would go Downs, Hopkins, and McLaurin because my feeling is they're going to get the ball to Hopkins because they know he's a big time player. And even if they wait around, he'll probably be targeted for a touchdown pass here or there once or twice, depending upon where they are. So, all right. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I have 5 people viewing right now. I might log off and log back on. I get the feeling on TikTok that, oh, your mom's here. Whenever I see that, your mom, I always think like your mom, like, your mom is so whatever. What do they call that? The nines or the dimes or anyway, I don't remember. Okay. Should I pick up Khalil Herbert? Well, I know I looked him up the other day or yesterday. I guess I did. Wow. Yesterday seems like a long time ago. I had a lot of work to do today. Bengals head coach newly acquired could play Thursday's Week 10 matchup against the. Well, it says he could play Thursday's matchup. I just don't know that he'll get a lot of reps, even if he does play. If you're banking on, is he going to be good? I think Chase Brown's still going to be the number 1. I think he's just going to come on to, spell him, like give him a break, give him a breather, do things like that. I don't think Khalil Herbert's going to, be a number 1. And, I would hate for you to dump someone that you wish you didn't dump in a week or two to get Herbert, and then he doesn't really end up doing that much with Cincinnati. So I would say I wouldn't pick him up right now because I don't even know that he's going to play. And if he does play, how many plays is he really going to be in on? Because they play Thursday night. That's a real short week for someone that's been traded on yesterday. He's just now getting to practice and all that. Yeah. All right. Nicholas has, should I start Trey McBride or Cade Otton? I feel like Otton will have the better week, but it's hard to say with Trey. I like trade. I like Cade Otton. I think he would be the one to start. Obviously, even against Kansas City that has a good defense. Now, their passing defense isn't as good as their run defense, but he had a pretty big game, especially as a tight end. So I would start Cade Otton. Let me just double check something. They're playing San Francisco against a tight end. The 49ers are ranked 12th. They give up 6 points on average to tight ends. So they're middling, but that Otton is targeted way more than your average tight end. I mean, he means more to that team than, an average tight end. I think it is, but just for the sake of argument and the fact that we have a little bit of time here, I can go and look up McBride a little bit. If I can spell. I can only look him up if I can spell. I mean, Otten probably gets you 13 points. McBride gets you, his big game was 16 2 weeks ago, but last week he had 11. Let's do a comparison here since we have a little bit of time. There's 2 people on TikTok, so I don't know what's going on. I had this happen to me on my computer. I guess everything's catching up now. Yeah, I mean, the last 3 weeks, 14, 24, 17. He puts up numbers like a wide receiver would or a running back. Like you could legitimately, like if you had Kelsey, let's say, and Otten, you could legitimately put Otten in a flex almost. Okay, so we said San Francisco. Let's look up McBride. He plays New Jersey. The Jets. The Jets are number 5. So yeah, McBride has a tougher matchup, so I would definitely then go with Otten. Nicholas, I would go with Otten. If CD plays, should I start him or McConkey? Well, the one thing about CD is with that new quarterback, I'm just a little leery of how good he's going to be. Or is he going to be any good? Something must have happened on TikTok. All right, I'm going to stay on YouTube. I'm going to dump TikTok and I'll rejoin. Because right now it says I have 1 person online. That's not even worth my time right now. So let me restart. I'm going to jump off. Stay on YouTube. I'll be right there. I don't get it. I got enough followers. This is crazy. It doesn't even have a new title. Wednesday Fantasy. Oh, what's that now? Fantasy football. Okay, we're going to go live. I don't understand. Okay, any questions from YouTube while we get people on TikTok coming on board? Because that was just bizarre. Okay, TikTok's notifying people that I'm live. That's always a good sign. I don't know. Sometimes TikTok, if anybody's listening, sometimes TikTok, like I'm using my phone, and sometimes if I use my phone, it says I'm copying other people's information or something, and then it limits your broadcast, and maybe that happened. Terry for Monty and Pickens. Wow. Josh G, are you trading Terry and getting Monty and Pickens? Because if that's the case, I would do that deal. If you're trading, if you're giving away Monty and Pickens and getting Terry, I would not do that deal. And a couple reasons why I say that. Okay, I think I established earlier when I was just on live and I had like 1 person on. I don't know what was going on with TikTok, but that Monty might have a tough matchup this week, but that's a short-term problem. I think Pickens for the rest of the season is going to do much better with Williams on the team now. It's going to take some pressure off of Pickens and open up his game. So if you're trading Terry and you're getting Monty and Pickens, I would press yes on that deal right now. I think that's a great deal, personally. But if you're giving up Monty and Pickens, because I don't know exactly which way it goes, and you're getting Terry, I would not do that deal. Gesicki or McBride? Okay, I have not been asked that question yet. McBride. Do I have Gesicki open? Nope, I don't. All right, let me look that up real quick. So Gesicki had 24 points, then he had 8 points against a bad Vegas team. And McBride had 16 and 11 in the last 2 weeks. My gut says right now McBride, but let me see. New Jersey, tight end, and Baltimore. Gesicki plays Baltimore. So let me just see. I have a feeling the Jets are number 5 on tight end defense, and the Ravens. Where are the Ravens? I'm going to try to do this fast. I know I don't want to lose too many people. Ravens. Come on. Oh, Ravens are number 19. Okay. So based on who they're playing, I would go with Gesicki because Baltimore is ranked 19 and the Jets are ranked 5th on points given up. What am I saying? McBride goes against the Jets. The Jets are number 5 against tight ends for points, average points per game, and Baltimore is 19, and that's who Gesicki plays. And just so you know, 19 is 7.5 points, 5 is 4.7. So the better matchup is for Gesicki. So I can see that with Cincinnati. I'm not opposed to that at all. So, all right. We got a bunch of people on TikTok. That's good because something happened to my earlier live stream where nobody was showing up. And I don't know. Maybe somebody thought I don't know. Who knows? Terry Fermani and Pickens, Gesicki, McBride. All right. Okay, just a quick reset. If you want to jump to the front of the line, if you want your question asked next, send me a gift. It can be 1 rose, which is like 1 coin, which is like 1 penny. So there's that. If we're caught up on gifts, like we are right now, oh, Dylan, send a gift. Dylan will be number 1. Thank you very much for the rose, Dylan. See, 1 rose, 1 question answered. Where is your, okay, trade Kamara and Garrett Wilson for, whoa. Kamara and Garrett Wilson for Tyrone Tracy and Derrick Henry? Okay, yeah, like Dylan. Okay, Garrett Wilson's still putting up decent numbers. Kamara has been fine, if not good. I kind of, he's a, probably, if he's not a top 10, he's probably a top 12 or 13, as they say, RB 13, all these nerdy things everybody says in fantasy. But I just look at Kamara somewhere. He's not in Derrick Henry's level or Saquon or Bijan's level. Like they're all on one level. And then the level underneath that, you kind of have Mixon, Walker. And I think Kyron's actually kind of maybe between them. And then underneath those guys is like Jacobs and maybe Breece Hall. He's been very inconsistent. I know people rank him higher, but he's highly inconsistent. I think it's a great trade. I mean, Tyrone Tracy is going to give you some points. He's probably a level underneath Kamara at this point, but Derrick Henry, I mean, if you're giving up Kamara and Garrett Wilson and you're getting Tyrone Tracy and Derrick Henry, what first of all, what that says to me is you need, you definitely do need running backs. I would do that deal in a heartbeat. Yes, you're giving up Kamara, but you're actually essentially getting Derrick Henry, and you don't have to worry about it. You have Puka and Amon-Ra. Tyreek's not putting up great numbers. As long as Puka doesn't hit anybody, you're fine. But yeah, I would go Derrick. I mean, Derrick Henry is, the leader in yards this season. I don't know for running backs if he's leading in touchdowns, but I know he's leading in yards. See, you will be next. Thank you for the gift. That's the way to jump the line, guys. All you have to do is gift me and you jump the line. So yeah, if you're giving up Kamara and Garrett Wilson and you're getting Tyrone Tracy, Derrick Henry, I would do that deal, definitely. Yeah, I think it's a great deal. All right, I'm going to go to C. Trade Jamar and Kupp for Mixon and Tyreek. Okay, just to be clear, I think I know what you're talking about. Jamar Chase, not Jahmyr Gibbs. Sometimes people get names a little confused. I'm going on the assumption, C, that Jamar's Jamar Chase. I think you were too, but I just want to be abundantly clear, okay? And then Kupp. Okay, so you're basically giving up 2 top-end wide receivers for Mixon and Tyreek. Now, Mixon is probably in that second group underneath Saquon and Derrick Henry and Bijan in my mind. He puts up good numbers. Don't get me wrong. I'm not downgrade. The thing about Tyreek here, if you're getting Mixon and Tyreek, I wouldn't do this deal. Because Tyreek, the last 2 weeks, has only put up 10 points. Now, you may say to me, well, look at what he did last year. And I say, oh, yeah, he was great last year. But tell me about this year. This year's where the points are. He's only put up 10 points, okay? And the last 2 weeks, he's put up 10 points since Tua's come back, 10 points each game that Tua's been there. And so the other thing, Birdman, thanks for joining. The other thing about a Miami offensive player, which that's all we really talk about, don't we? Unless we talk about Miami's defense. CBC Mexico, thanks for joining. Haven't seen you in a little bit, buddy. Glad that you joined. Love to have you around. All right. The thing about it is Ja'Marr is like if Jefferson and St. Brown and maybe Nico are up here, but maybe it's Nico and Jefferson. Maybe Ja'Marr and St. Brown are on that next level right underneath them. Now, I'm not going to say, oh, they're why he's an WR4. I'm not doing all that nerdy stuff, okay? I'm just telling you in the range. That's how I look at it. He's in that second tier right below Jefferson and Nico, all right? Ja'Marr Chase's. Kupp is probably right underneath Ja'Marr, and you could make the argument that they should be on the same level, whatever. They're close enough. Mixon, again, is on like that second tier. Tyreek, though, this year, I'm just not seeing it, okay? And I know that's not what you want to hear, and people trade for names and all that other kind of stuff, but I'm just not seeing it. And the other thing that worries me about Miami is the fact that Tua's one big hit away from not playing again this season. I mean, seriously, and you guys know this, the more concussions you get, the easier it is to get a concussion. And for that reason alone, I tend to, outside of Achane, I really try to stay away, or, I tell a lot of people, look, Tua's one hit away. You really want to worry about that gamble, because let's look at their offensive numbers when Tua wasn't the quarterback. They were awful. Everybody's was awful. Achane was awful. Okay. But Achane right now is the only one putting up real fantasy numbers, the numbers that you want. So I would not get rid of Ja'Marr and Kupp for Mixon and Tyreek. No, I wouldn't do it. Now, other people on TikTok might say, oh, Tyreek's really good. He's talented. He's athletic. He's a speedster, all of that. That's all fine and well. But let's just talk about the points he's put up the last 2 weeks. They've been 10 points, both games. I don't want that. Do you want that? If you're in a 10-team league, you want your wide receiver or running back to at least get you 13 points. He's not even doing that. Okay. If he's so good, why isn't he doing that? Why isn't there more integration into the offense? I just don't see it right now. Maybe if he turns a corner, this trade's great. If 2 weeks from now, Tyreek has, 17 and 21 points, then sure, but I'm just not seeing it yet. And I can't go on the if come. Well, I hope that he plays better. I'm not going to recommend a trade like that. Not, unless it's really lopsided or something. All right. See, I took a lot of time on that. I think I'm all caught up on gifters. So now, okay, so I'm all caught up on gifters. If you want to jump to the headline, you send me a rose, you send me a lightning bolt. They're one coin, it's 1 penny. You can still go to lunch tomorrow. And then since we're all caught up, then we go to, hey, Jeff, you will be next. Thank you for the rose. See, guys, it's that easy. It's 1 penny. Jeff. Okay. Gesicki or Henry at tight end. I was actually just going to read that anyway, Jeff, but, okay, let me look up Hunter Henry. I have Gesicki here. He plays against Baltimore. Baltimore is number 19. Let me look up Hunter. I'm getting a lot of tight end questions today. There must be something with buys and good tight ends this week. I'll have to look at that. Okay, so Hunter Henry, the last 4 weeks in a 10-team league, he's giving you what my recipe calls for. He's giving you at least 7 or plus points every game. The last 4 games, 11, 13, 7, 9. So he's hit that 7 mark. The 7 and the 9 are lower than, Gesicki's totals over, like last week, Gesicki had 24.5. Okay. But they're 19. Let me just look up Henry plays Chicago. Let's look up what Chicago is against. Chicago is number 16. And Baltimore, that Gesicki plays. Oh, God bless America. Keep hitting the wrong thing. And then it goes away. Okay. Yeah, so Gesicki plays Baltimore. They're ranked number 19. They're the 19 out of 32 teams. And Henry plays Chicago. They're number 16, meaning, well, I'll just tell you what it means. It means that Chicago averages 6.8 points for a tight end every game, and Baltimore averages 7.5. Not a huge difference, but if you're just basing it on matchups, you can go Gesicki. Now, the one thing with Gesicki is if you go back 3 weeks, he had 0.7, 8.8, and 24. So he does have an upside. And Baltimore overall, you can throw against. So I would go with Gesicki based on the matchup and the fact that overall, I think Burrow could have a big throwing day against the Ravens. So I would go with Gesicki over Hunter Henry. Plus, do we know who the quarterback is with New England? Henry remains a favorite target of Drake May and has at least 5 receptions in each of May's 3 starts. Henry remained primary, a short option. Well, let's look up May real quick. Is he definitely playing? Is everything okay with him? May completed blah, blah, blah. I mean, May had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 206 yards. Yeah, I would go Gesicki because of the matchup and that I think, Burrow will throw to him. But if you want something that's maybe a safer pick, like a steadier pick, because you could look at Gesicki and say he's a little more risky. Hunter Henry's been a little bit more consistent, which he has the last 4 weeks. He's gotten over that 7 mark, but his ceiling is lower, meaning, Gesicki had 24 points. Now, I'm not predicting he's going to get 24 points, but maybe he can get 16 points this week. Maybe he can get 0.7. So Gesicki's a little bit of a risk. And Hunter Henry's probably steadier, but you're going to get somewhere between 11 to 12 points with Hunter Henry. So I'm going to leave you to make that final decision. So Gesicki's he's riskier. Hunter Henry's steadier. But Gesicki has a higher ceiling. No risk, no reward kind of thing with Gesicki. All right. We are all caught up on gifting. So if you want to jump to the head of the line, you can send off a gift, like a rose. It costs 1 coin, which is like 1 penny. But while we're caught up on gifts, that's when I read, Chandler. See, it's that easy, guys. All you have to do is be like Chandler and send 1 rose, and that's 1 coin, and you will get your question asked. Okay, never mind. Chandler. Did Chandler just send that, or did Chandler have a question? Trade Mooney for Josh Downs. Okay. Getting asked about Downs a lot today. It's interesting how some of this stuff. Okay. Mooney. I like the fact that Mooney is on Atlanta. They throw the ball a lot. That offense is clicking pretty well. And that Indiana offense, what happened here? Okay, I see. Is not necessarily clicking very well. I didn't think Flacco looked very good at all. Let's just see here. I got to go to players. I don't know why I'm taking all this time. I have Mooney. Then I got to get Downs. I should remember Downs because I've only looked at him about 12 times tonight. Don't forget on TikTok and Don't forget on TikTok. Should I start training? Right, okay, that. Oh, on TikTok, don't forget to hit that like, and also don't forget to hit follow. I go live Monday through Thursdays, sometimes Fridays. I go live Saturdays, somewhere between 11 a.m. to noon Eastern time, and sometimes I go live on Sundays. But that way, hopefully if you follow me on TikTok, you'll get that recognition, or you'll get that announcement that I'm live. On YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. That way you know when I'm on. If you have any questions on YouTube, feel free to send them my way. Okay. Downs is a little streakier, and now he's up against Buffalo. Well, that's short term, though. Okay, we're talking long term because you're trading them. Mooney is well, Mooney's number 2, but Drake London's questionable, and he's had some not so good games, but I think that's helped Darnell Mooney's play, actually. That's why he's had 16 and 17 points the last 2 weeks. I think Drake London or Darnell Mooney, because Drake London has either been injured or, people are probably, defenders are probably zeroing in on London. So, Chandler, I'm thinking trade Mooney for Josh Downs. Mooney. The only thing about Downs is he's a touch a little more inconsistent. And the other thing about it is we're talking about trading a wide receiver for a wide receiver. And I guess, Chandler, my thought is, how does this make your team better? I ask that a lot. Like, that's one of my standard questions when I see a trade and I'm like, well, what is the difference maker? How does this make you guys better? Now you might be thinking that, if London comes back, Mooney doesn't have value. Well, London's played and he had 16 points. He had 27. Downs has had 9, 20, 0.8, 16, 11, 18, 3. So he's been a little bit more, Downs has been a little bit more inconsistent. He's had some games. I mean, he had a stretch weeks 4, 5, and 6 where he had 18, 11, and 16. So not bad. The 11 is average for a 10-team league wide receiver. You want to get at least 13 points. He had 11. But the 0.8, maybe he got injured in that or something happened. But last week he had 9. He was targeted 9 times. He had 6 catches for 60 yards. The week before he had 109 and 1. What I'm saying is I don't really necessarily see a lot of consistency in either one of them. So I'm trying to figure out, Chandler, like, what makes you want Downs? Because I don't know how it makes your team overall better. I've got Chase, Mooney, Debo, Olave, and just need more wide receiver points. But I don't know that Downs gives you a lot more wide receiver points. Like, you might be better served to package Mooney and Debo together and try to get like St. Brown or get Nico Collins. You see what I'm saying? That way you can put Chase in there. You could put, I don't know, St. Brown in there. You can put Nico in there. So you have 2 solid guys. I don't think trading Mooney for Downs gives you so many points that, like, it's going to change your team's future. I would think that it's actually, I would consider maybe even Debo and Olave if you can get, Debo and Olave, maybe you get Downs. But I see Mooney and Downs as very similar. I can look at their point total actually real quick. But that's 79. It's not really going to say much. And 109 for Mooney. Mooney has 109 points. Josh Downs has 79, but he's missed a lot more games. I would have to break it down by what their average point total is. I don't even know if I can find that actually this easily. Let me just see. Yeah, I just don't know that it makes you that much better. It would be better if you packaged up like Olave and Debo maybe for downs. That way you have Chase Downs, Mooney, and Debo. Or maybe you do like Mooney and Olave, like I said, for St. Brown or Nico, or Mooney and Debo for St. Brown or Nico, that kind of thing. Or maybe what you do is you trade maybe Debo and Olave for like Cup or Puka. They would be an upgrade. Debo's not really doing much, and Olave, he keeps getting hurt, right? Isn't that his deal? And he's battled different quarterbacks. I mean, Olave's been all over the map lately. But yeah, I mean, you could do Olave and Debo for somebody that has a ton of wide receivers. That way you have Chase, a new and top receiver, and then maybe you have Mooney, and you have those three. But I don't know that trading Mooney for downs is the way to go, because I don't think it catapults you into, oh my God, I'm going to win the rest of my games because I got so many more wide receiver points. All right, everybody, don't forget, if you're on YouTube, if you're on TikTok, hit that like button, Also, TikTok, hit that follow button. That way you know when I'm on, okay? I want to get more followers. I'm on my phone tonight because my computer's been letting me down, been getting me like, it did like it did earlier tonight where it whittles me down to like 4 people online at a time. But I did that tonight on my phone, so maybe I jump back to my computer. On YouTube, I don't have a lot of people on. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on YouTube. Also, if you want to make sure that your question gets answered by me, you can send me a gift. 1 rose is all it takes. That's 1 coin. That's 1 penny. It's not a big deal. I'm not asking to break the bank. Since we are all caught up right now on gifts, the next round of people I'll read are people who have gifted me in the past, and then also anybody who begins to follow me. If you follow me, I'll read and that's a free way of getting your questions asked. And I know people follow me and then a day later, or a few hours later, then unfollow me. So if you want to be like that, fine. But okay, somebody just followed me and they look like they have a Bronco thing. Tyler Bennett followed me. Trade McBride and Sutton for London and Henry. Which Henry are you talking about? Hunter Henry or Derrick Henry? If you're talking about Derrick Henry, Tyler, I wouldn't even, like, if it's London, and if you're getting London and Derrick Henry, it's a no-brainer. If you're getting London and Hunter Henry, maybe it's, we got to think about it a little bit more. But you're trading a tight end and a wide receiver for a wide receiver, and if it is Hunter Henry, a tight end. So my question to you, like I had to Chandler, is how does this make you better? Because you're taking the two positions and you're just swapping them. Okay. So how does this make you better? I can tell you that I like Drake London, but he's been inconsistent and he did get injured, although I don't know if he's still on the injury list. Let me look that up real quick. He's still questionable. What does it say? He was limited in Wednesday's practice, which is actually a pretty good sign if on Wednesday's practice he's limited and didn't sit out. Well, they're saying maybe it is a cause for concern. But he's going to have a full practice going into the weekend to start. This is a short-term thing if it's a trade, obviously, but I'm just letting you know. The one thing about London is weeks 5 through 7, he had 27, 16, 15. Then week 8, he had 5. And then week 9, he had 9.7. In a 10-team league, you want to have 13 or more points from your wide receiver, your running back, and your flex. You want 19 or higher from your quarterback. You want your kicker and defense to be at least 10. And you want your tight end to be 7. If you can follow that, I think I did the math real quickly earlier. I think it's like 115. That would put you at a minimum. If those are minimums, like 7, 13, that puts you at a minimum of 115 points. And so just think if you could know that you score 115 points every week, you probably have a pretty good team. But know that when I say 13 or over, your guy might score 16, 17, 25 points. So, if you follow this recipe and you're going into week 10, you're probably looking at least a 5-4 record, 6-3, 7-2, maybe if you get lucky, and depending upon who you play, it's 8-1. But that's the kind of stuff that you should be looking for. So basically what I'm trying to say is you can almost make any team into this team as long as you stay really aggressive on the waiver wire, and get the people that are making, scoring points, and you pick them up and you can rotate them in and things like that. But yeah, trade McBride and Sutton. I do like Sutton. Oh, Tyler, did we ever figure out, did you answer, Tyler, which Hunter that is? Because otherwise, I'm not really going to go into my whole spiel because, as some of you know, is ETN droppable? Yeah, I think at this point he is. If you can get somebody better off waivers, I would pick him up, most definitely. He is. And Bigsby is to a certain extent, although if you can bury him on your bench, if anybody's listening, I would maybe consider doing that. Hey, AJ Brown's here today. Zay or Puka? I'll just do that since I brought you up, AJ, and we're all up to speed with our gifters. Now, remember, all you have to do is gift one rose. It's one coin. That's like 1 penny. You move to the front of the line. But AJ Brown here, it's weird to say that, is asking for Zay or Puka. So let me look up Zay, who had a good week last week. Then let me look up Puka. Puka, who punched somebody and got kicked out of the game. He goes up against Miami. Miami against wide receivers. Oh, Ethan, you will be next. Let me just get done with this. But Ethan, you will be next. Thank you for the gifted roses. All right. Miami is number 1 against wide receivers. And that's who Puka goes up against. So that's not a good matchup for Puka. Flowers goes up against Cincinnati. Cincinnati. Where are we at here, Cincinnati? Where are we at? Cincinnati is number 13. So I would go with Flowers because Cincinnati, it's a better matchup on paper. And, like for the last 5 weeks, Zay Flowers has gotten you over 13 points 4 of 5 of those weeks. He's had 15, 17.9, 3.5, and 1 target. Without going into that, maybe he got injured that game, 15 and 27. So Zay Flowers is actually getting very, 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 very consistent. So I would definitely go with Zay based on that and the matchup. All right, let me go to Ethan, who's very kind and sent some roses over. Remember, if you want to definitely get your Brandon, thank you for the rose. You'll be next on the list after Ethan. Let's see. Ethan. Nico Collins and CMC injury update. This just in. All right. Let's look up Nico real quick. Nico Collins didn't practice Wednesday. He was placed on IR. No practice as soon as this week. Per Wilson, Collins has no setbacks. He's regained his speed. I think he was running 20 miles per hour earlier in the week or last week. So he's getting healthy, or he is healthy. Not having resumed practice as of Wednesday, it remains to be seen if he'll be activated ahead of Sunday. So basically, with Nico, if you have him and you're worried about playing him, you're going to have to read those little notepads behind, or note cards behind their names, and see what his injury report is for Thursday and Friday. He's probably going to want at least a full practice, and maybe in one of those they'll say, "Hey, Gavin, you'll be after Brandon." Maybe they'll say whether or not, "Oh, Apple user, thank you for the donut. That always makes me hungry." All right, good. Oh, thank you for the roses. Very nice. Thank you. Title gifter, 25 roses. But yeah, you'll have to monitor Nico that way. And then who was the other Nico on CMC? So he may or he may not. He hasn't suffered any setbacks, but like I said, he didn't practice today. So that's not a good sign that he didn't practice, but sometimes they just keep people sort of, they just kind of leave him out for a while. And then he'll have a full practice on Friday and then go over the weekend. Christian McCaffrey. I think he's for surely going to play. Christian McCaffrey was limited in practice Wednesday, which is actually a decent sign. This is a great way to start the week. Our crew will continue searching for week 10. So you're going to have to follow his update. But since he had limited practice, my guess is he probably needs at least one full practice. If he doesn't get it tomorrow, if he's limited again tomorrow, he'll probably get it Friday, all things considered, and probably then play over the weekend. So that's a good sign that he had limited practice. Hopefully he'll practice tomorrow or Friday, and they'll give us a little bit more on the reports. But it sounds like right now things are going well. Limited practice. Hopefully tomorrow or Friday he'll have a full practice, which is a good sign for him starting over the weekend. All right. That was Ethan. I got to go to Brandon. Then I got to go to Gavin, then Apple user. I know I'm going to try to jump through these. Thank you very much, Ethan, for the roses. I appreciate it, buddy. Wow. Thank you. All right. Brandon. Where's Brandon? I see Gavin. I see Apple user. I'm just trying to go in order because it's sort of okay. Brandon, there we go. Dobbins and Worthy for Amon-Ra. I have Bijan and Gibbs. I have Puka and McLaurin and Downs. Yeah, I would do that because in my mind, Worthy doesn't have much worth. No pun intended, but he looked really bad the other night. He doesn't know where he is on the field. He only catches the ball with 1 foot in bounds. I think he could have. Look, I'm not an NFL player. I'm not going to pretend to be one. They are some of the best athletes in the entire world. I totally get it. And it moves at a fast pace. But a great wide receiver, a Jerry Rice, let's say, although he's the cream of the crop. But I'm thinking of Isaac Bruce. I was a St. Louis Rams fan. I live in St. Louis. But they would have known to get their feet in on that catch early in the game. That should have been a touchdown. Okay. So yeah, I think it's a great trade, Brandon. I think getting Amon-Ra, for me, Worthy's just kind of being thrown in. Dobbins, he's good. I understand that, but with Bijan and Gibbs, you're not going to lose anything. So yeah, and Amon-Ra's been putting up really good points. My son has him on his team, and he's week in and week out. He always is very, very successful. I like to double check my work, so to speak. So let me just look that up so I'm not going completely crazy. Oh, that's weird. I guess I have to capitalize Brown. He's had 15, 7.7, 21, 11, 17, 17, 17, 2.8. So he's modestly inconsistent, but week 1 he had 2.8, but since then his lowest number's been 7.7. Week 6 he had 11.7, but last week and 3 weeks ago he had 15 and 21 respectively. So look, he's going to get you 15 points. And even if he's bad, he might get you 11. And in a 10-team fantasy league, you want your wide receivers, running backs, and flex to at least get you 13 points or average 13 points every week. And you'll want quarterbacks 19 or over, kickers defense 10 or over, and tight ends at 7. I say this a lot. I haven't said it that much tonight, but that's sort of that's my recipe for doing well in fantasy sports, those numbers in a 10-team league. So yeah, I think you should definitely do it for Amon-Ra. All right, that was Brandon. Let's go to Gavin, and then we'll go to Apple user, and then we'll be caught up on all the gifting. So when we're caught up on gifting, then I look for people who follow, and I look for people who gifted in the past. Do I look to trade CD? That's a great question. Now, here's the thing, Gavin. Okay, let's say that you trade him tonight. Okay, someone accepts your trade and rushes the quarterback, and the game comes, and he puts up 35 points. Now, you can't predict 35 points. Brandon, thank you very much for the rose. I appreciate it. Thank you for the earlier roses. My only concern is if somebody follows the sport, they're going to know that CD doesn't have much value without Dak. All right. Now, Rush is going to throw to him, but how well of a passer is Rush? How good is he as a quarterback? How well does he know CD and the routes that he runs and where he's going to be exactly? I don't know. So if you trade him now, someone might scoff at the trade and just, make you go away. But then someone else might say that someone might accept it because it's CD. Like they don't know, they don't follow it well and say, oh, I can get CD Lamb. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll accept that trade. Okay. But there's always those people around. Now, next week, you'll know how he does against Rush. So it's kind of what do you feel more comfortable at doing? Trading him before he plays with Rush, and maybe he does well with Rush. Maybe he does miserable with Rush. Okay. But that's up to you. It's what you have to say. Then if you wait a week, did you just screw yourself because he was miserable with Rush? That's the downside. And you're not going to get anything for him. Or was he fantastic with Rush and you might actually get even more than you thought for him? So it's totally a risk because Rush, in my mind, is a little bit unknown throwing to CD. So yes, I think you should trade him. I would trade him. I would pretend like he's CD with Dak and move him accordingly. I mean, Dak will probably be back for the end of fantasy playoffs. 4 to 6 weeks is an IR stint, so he could be back in 4 to 5 weeks, and that's right when a lot of the your fan or your playoffs start. So yeah, I would and if someone asks, say, look, Dak's going to be back by the time the playoffs are, so that's why I'm requesting this trade. That's the way I would look at it, Gavin. I would try to trade him now, and I would just think that he's CD, and I would get what I could. And if people decline it, then they decline it, but you'll have to see how he works with Rush. All right, that was Ethan. No, that was Gavin. I did Brandon. Now I got to go to Apple user. And then I think we're getting close to being caught up. Oh, you're welcome, Gavin. Thank you so much. Gavin, thank you for the roses again. Appreciate it. All right. I'm going to Apple user. Where's Apple user? So I'm doing this on my phone. It's a long story. I got a computer because I only have an Apple. Oh, does Apple user, do you not have a question? There's 3 things that could happen. Apple user doesn't have a question, TikTok filtered out the question, or I'm just not seeing the question. So Apple user, if you have a question, put it like in all caps and use some emojis so I see it, because I don't want to skip over you. But if for some reason I skip over it again, or I don't see it, or I start talking 8 other people, like I see Apple user giving the roses, Apple user giving the donut, number 1 badge. Okay, maybe we're getting closer here. Apple user. Oh, there we go. There we go. I see it now. Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Tyreek, Drake, London. Which 2 should I start? Well, let's look up Drake London because I know that he's injured. Of course, I don't have him up. I've only looked him up 20 times tonight. Let's see. St. Brown. I'm not going to look up St. Brown. Well, Tyreek has 10 points the last 2 weeks. And Drake London. So we have 3 names. Let's look up Drake and see what his condition is. Drake London. Hip was limited in Wednesday's practice. Okay, so London, he did have limited practice today, but that's actually kind of a good sign. So there's a good chance that he plays. Now, the one thing about London is he has been a little inconsistent. He was doing okay before the injury. He had 1 touchdown, 27 yards receiving. He had 9.7 points. But the week before, he only had 5 points, which was a lot lower than we would want him to have. So, you know, I would definitely start St. Brown out of all these guys. So take him out of the equation because I think Detroit has a very good defense. I think they go up. Yeah, St. Brown goes up against Houston. Houston against wide receivers. Yeah, the Texans are ranked 25. So, yeah, I would definitely go St. Brown. They're 25 out of 32 worst. Like 25 is a bad number because it's close to 32. So they give up, just so you know, Texans give up on wide receivers 23.7 points to wide receivers on average every week. So that's good for St. Brown. So St. Brown is a yes. Now we got to look at Tyreek. Let me look him up real quick. Tyreek, he only had 10 points. He goes up against the Rams. The Rams are 27 against the wide receivers. So St. Brown's going up against number 25. The Rams are 27 against wide receivers. So those two numbers are actually good for you, or good for those players, Tyreek and St. Brown. And London, New Orleans, they're going to be a bad number, I bet. They're 20. So Drake, New Orleans, 27 are the Rams, and 25 is Houston. Man, everybody's like clustered tonight when I do these. Okay, so we did say St. Brown just because that offense is very efficient. You know, Goff, I think they said something along the lines of Goff has not thrown St. Brown an incomplete pass since like the middle or late September. That's how efficient he is as a quarterback and how good he is as a receiver, you know, on both those ends. So I would definitely go St. Brown. Now, Tyreek goes against the Rams. They're number 27. Drake goes against New Orleans. They're number 20. The only issues I have is that Tyreek has only gotten 10 points the last 2 weeks, which is kind of worrisome to me. Which isn't, you know, a lot of points for him, but maybe with Tua, maybe they get a little healthier and it's not such a big deal, I guess, is what I'm saying. I like the matchup. Tyreek has because they are ranked 27 and New Orleans is 20th. But, you know, and Drake has been a little inconsistent. I could see where I would say that. Okay, so St. Brown is a yes, so I'm just going to lay it out this way. Tyreek is sort of a safe bet. He's gotten 10 points the last 2 weeks. He'll probably at least get that. He's going against a really bad team against wide receivers in the Rams, 27 out of 32. But if you wanted to go with Drake, you might have a little bit more of a ceiling because he has recently put up more than 10 points. Hey, Apple user, thank you very much. So, you know, really, St. Brown, and if you went with Tyreek based on the matchups, I would understand that, thinking he's got to break out over 10 points this week. But I hate to give you an option and like, oh, what if he jumps? Hey, C's back. Wonder if C is another question. Thank you for the roses, C. But so I hate saying that, oh, I think he might have a good game. I think he's going to break out. The odds are, he probably will. Hey, Brandon, thank you for the rose. I'll get to you as well. So I just don't like doing that. I think a lot of people on TikTok go with their gut, go with the idea that, oh, this guy's bound to do it. This guy's better than that guy, but they don't look at the analytics. I look at the analytics and I say to myself, the matchup is good for Tyreek, but Tyreek hasn't been putting up the numbers. The matchup is a little bit better for Drake. Drake's nursing an injury and he hasn't been very consistent, but 3 weeks ago he put up, 20 points or whatever, or 15 points, 16 points, 27 points. So, but I think Tyreek's more of a steady kind of influence that way. Don't forget to hit that like button, guys. We're under 1,000 likes, which I can't believe. So hit that like button and don't forget to follow me. Kaylee Budd, thanks for joining. Don't forget to hit that follow. I go live at least 5 days a week. This is my 9th live stream day in a row. So that just tells you how wired I am, I guess. So it's never a problem for me, but I love to help people out and get their teams better. But it's 9 days in a row that I've been doing these. And I also have like a day job. So I listen to a lot of fantasy talk and a lot of NFL talk. So I try to keep up with everything. All right. We're all caught up on gifts. So if you want to jump to the head of the line and get your golden ticket, you can send me a rose. That's 1 coin, a lightning bolt, a tiny diny. That's 1 coin. That's like 1 penny. You jump to the front of the line. Oh, actually, C and Brandon are there. I'm sorry. We're not caught up. So I got to look for C and Brandon. So that's one way to jump up in the line. The second way is if you've gifted me in the past or if you followed me tonight, I will jump up. Okay, I see Brandon. See Colin, but that's not C. I'm wondering if C has a new question. I'm not seeing it, C, and that usually means one of 3 things. A bunch of people followed me. I appreciate that, everybody. Oh, C, trade Cup for Kyren. I'm just thinking because they're on the same team. It just makes me laugh. If you can trade Cup and get Kyren, I would do that. Kyren he's like a machine. All right, Colin, I'm putting you on the list too. You'll be after Brandon. I'm working on C now, then Brandon, then Colin. Yeah, if you can get Kyren, I obviously you need running backs, I guess too. Kyren to me is I'm not one of these guys that does the nerdy thing. Oh, he's an RB7 or an RB5. Whatever. You got to constantly rank people, and then it's your ranking versus their ranking. So I just say there's a top tier, and it's Saquon, Derrick Henry, and Bijan in my mind. Right below that is one name, that's Kyren Williams, and then there's another group that's like Mixon and Walker. He's kind of in between that Mixon Walker group and the Derrick Henry Saquon Barkley group. That he is so consistent. He puts up such great numbers. He is really a fantasy star in my mind. Okay, see, we got you through that. I hope. If not, you guys can always DM me on TikTok. I'm not making people do subscriptions. My only ask is that you don't overdo it and send me like 7 questions every day. 1 or 2 is fine. If we're going back and forth and sort of debating whether or not you should make this trade or use this person, I get it, but just please don't overdo it because I get other people asking me questions too, and I can't always get to everybody, and I feel bad. All right, let's look for Brandon. I know I saw it earlier, so this shouldn't be that difficult. Don't forget to follow. We're going to be caught up soon on the gifting, so the follow and people who've gifted in the past would be next, unless we get any more gifts. All right, there's Brandon. I have Mark Andrews and Otten. Should I keep both or trade one? What should I try to get for one? Okay, well, obviously, Andrews didn't have quite the game last week that we would expect. Remember, Cade Otton, I have to look this up for Andrews. Cade Otton probably has a little bit more value right now, but his bye week is next week. Not this coming weekend, the weekend after that. So you may not want to do anything until after that, like trade-wise, because you're going to need Andrews to be a tight end in 2 weekends. unless he's on a bye. He's 14. Yeah. So what you could do theoretically is keep Andrews until Otten's bye week at 11, keep Otten, and then try to trade Andrews. And hopefully he'll have another, good game where he puts up 20 points and you can get like, a running back or a great defense or a great kicker or a combination of two of those things, whatever it might be. So that's what I would do about that situation. But with Otten, you're gonna need a replacement in a week. So week 11. I hope I answered that, Brandon. If I didn't, please DM me. Colin, Dobbins and BTJ for Jacobs and Debo. Well, Jacobs to me, let me look up Dobbins. I keep talking. Let me spend a little time on this. Jacobs. See, Jacobs to me is a very good player. Maybe not in the Mixon way, although his numbers are kind of crazy. Jacobs, in the last 4 games, he's had 10 points, 17, 25, 11.8. So only 2 of the 4 weeks did he get over that 13. Allah did invite you to co-host. I didn't co-host because I'm in the middle of a stream. I don't even know. What is that? Join the 2 sides. I don't know what the guy talks about. I know people do that anyway. See, Josh Jacobs has only gotten over 13 points 2 of the last 4 weeks. The reason why 13 is an important number to me in a 10-team league, and that's what most of you ladies and gentlemen, Oak, you will be next. Thank you for the rose. In a 10-team league, you want your running back and wide receiver and flex at 13 or more points every week to average. You want your quarterback at 19 or over, defense kicker 10 or over, tight end 7 or over. Amanda's here. Amanda, you'll be after Oak, and thank you I think you gave me some sort of origami thing, right? If I saw that correctly. I'm on my phone tonight because my computer was not putting a lot of people on live, and then, hey, Chris. Oh, Chris is Kisk or Kiosk. I'm sorry about that. I'm not laughing at you. Oak, Amanda, Chris. All right. So the way I look at it is, so Jacobs, let's look at Dobbins real quick. That's going to be really the centerpiece of this because I know Debo's highly inconsistent. Dobbins is now 3 of his last 4 weeks, he's been over 13. He's had 17, 8, 14, 23, which is actually pretty close to Jacobs. I'll be honest with you. There's not much difference in that, except Dobbins in the last 3 weeks has a lower number, and Jacobs only hit 13 twice, while Dobbins hit it 3 times in the last 4 weeks. So Dobbins, some might say, is a little bit better because he's hit that number 3 times, but Jacobs probably has the same amount of points because his 2 lower numbers were 10 and 11, where Dobbins was 8. So Dobbins and Jacobs are on the same level. Okay, that's kind of what I thought. So the real trade is BTJ for Debo. All right. BTJ is inconsistent. Debo's inconsistent. So I'm going to ask you what I ask a lot of people. Why do you want to make this trade? Because what I'm seeing is a running back and a wide receiver for a running back and a wide receiver. And they're kind of all in the same range. Like, running backs are in the same range. The wide receivers are kind of in the same range. How does this make your team better? You're just trading 2 people to get 2 people, and they're all for their position, they're very similar. Hey, footballer Nick, glad to have you on board, buddy. Sorry I didn't see you earlier. Love to have you. Love to know when you're around. So that would be my question, Colin. I'm not opposed to you making this trade, but I don't know how it makes you better. And wouldn't you want a trade that makes you better? Like for instance, if you trade it like Dobbins and BTJ for like Joe Mixon, I would say that upgrades your running back. And let's say you have a bunch of other wide receivers that you can put in for BTJ. That makes you better. All right. Or Dobbins and BTJ maybe for a wide receiver, and you get I don't know, Cooper Kupp. Okay, Cooper Kupp probably is better than BTJ. Maybe it's Dobbins and BTJ for Amon-Ra St. Brown. That makes your wide receivers better. This doesn't necessarily make you better. You're trading a good running back for a good running back. You're trading an inconsistent wide receiver for an inconsistent wide receiver. So it's like, oh, did I get, are they playing? Did I get the right weeks to play them on? Like, I don't think it makes you better. I think what you want to do is figure out, do you need a running back? Do you need a wide receiver? Package up Dobbins and BTJ for either a running back or a wide receiver, or even a quarterback that upgrades that position you're starting. This doesn't do that. This is a lateral move in my mind. All right, Oak, you're next. And Colin, if you have any questions, just DM me on TikTok, okay? Please. And I'm not trying to be crass or anything like that. I'm just saying that's my question when I see a trade like that. Oh, wait, Colin had a comment. My thoughts were BTJ still has his bye and his playoff schedule is really tough. And his playoff schedule. Oh, the rest of the season, you're saying. Yeah, but I mean, it's Jacksonville. He's going to be inconsistent anyway. Debo's going to be, I mean, Debo has not been consistent at all this year. Now you might say, oh, well, Christian McCaffrey's been hurt. That'll help the offense. But, I mean, Debo, here's his week: 16, 14, 8, 2, 19, and 10. So when he goes low, it's only, well, he had 2.5 the one time, but, it's 8 or 10, but he's not necessarily, I mean, Debo's maybe a little bit more of an upgrade over BTJ. And maybe Debo will have bigger and better numbers when CMC comes back, but will CMC take more away from Debo because he does catch the ball out of the backfield? I don't know, maybe. And then, how do you factor in Kittle? I mean, Kittle's more valuable right now than Debo Samuel is to the San Francisco 49ers. In fantasy, he's much more valuable because he's putting up 25 points. So if you have any additional follow-up questions, Colin, please let me know. Okay. Oak, yeah, please DM me, Colin. I don't want to disparage you or anything, but I'm happy to fill in any blanks or help with any. I'm looking for Oak right now. Oak, Brandon St. Pierre, yes, 100%. Okay, I see Amanda, but I want to get to Oak first. Oak. Mike Nev, you'll be after Chris is. Where is Oak? Come on, Oak. Where you at, Oak? I see Chris. I see Amanda. I see more Brandon. Where's Oak? Oak. Chris, where's Oak? Come on, buddy. Where are we at here? Okay, Oak, Oak, I don't see it. So I'm going to, so then I'm going to go to Amanda. Oak, if you have a question, it's one of three things. I didn't see it. You didn't send one, or TikTok filtered it out. So resend it all in caps and put a bunch of emojis. I'm looking for Amanda now because I'm going to go in order, and then I'll do Chris's exists. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be mean. Okay, Amanda. Hi. How do you think Zay Flowers looks the rest of the season? I think he looks great. He's been very consistent, and I think the trade to get Deontay Johnson has obviously helped him. Well, I mean, at least for a week. But if you look at his numbers before Deontay Johnson, I think it takes a lot of pressure off him. The last 2 weeks, he's had 15 and 27. 4 weeks ago, he had 17.9. 3 weeks ago, he had 3.5. But I want to say he possibly got hurt because he only had one target, one reception for 11 yards. He rushed once for 19. So my guess is if I take 17 minutes and dig this up, he got hurt or something happened 3 weeks ago. So I think Zay Flowers right now is very, very steady. And what I mean by that is in the last 4 weeks, 3 times he's gotten over that 13-point threshold. And Amanda, you've probably heard me talk about that a lot. In a 10-team league, you want your wide receivers and running backs and flex to get 13 or more points a week. You want your quarterbacks over 19. You want your defense and kicker 10 or plus. You want your tight end at 7. I think I did the math. It's like 115-ish, somewhere around there. That's the minimum number, So if you do 13 times 4, that's 52. Let's just round it up to 20 for the quarterback. That's 72. That's another 22. That's 92. Well, I guess is it just 99? Well, I guess it gives you right around 100 points. But if your guys go over those minimums, you're going to win a lot of games. And they will. I mean, most players get 15 points rather than 13 even or something like that. So I think Zay Flowers, Amanda, looks great moving forward. So thank you for the question, and thank you very much for the support that you've had over the last few weeks. I really do appreciate it. All right, we're up to Chris is Kiskit, I guess. Apple user is back. I'll put you down. Thank you for the rose, Apple user. Is Puka and Mason for Neighbors and Bucky Irving a good trade? Okay, if you're giving away in the trade Puka and Mason, and you're getting Neighbors and Bucky Irving, hey, Colin, thank you. I'll put you back down in case you have another question. But thank you for the earlier rose. Thank you for that rose. All right, Puka and Mason. Okay, Mason is going to have value once CMC comes back. Now, CMC is probably going to be back this week, but my guess is he's Larry the Goat. Thanks for joining. CMC probably is going to take away some touches, or Mason's going to still take a few touches away from CMC this week. It probably isn't until next week or the following week that we'll see CMC at 100%. I think he'll be somewhat limited, whether that's 10%, 5%, 20%. I think CMC will be limited. Mason will not have a value after about 2 weeks. Okay. So basically, if you're giving away Puka and Mason, you're giving away Puka because Mason wouldn't have a value for you in 2 weeks anyway. Okay. And you're getting Neighbors and Bucky Irving. Now, Neighbors has not been putting up the points that he was putting up before his injury. I think he's been doing the whole 10 thing, getting 10 all the time like Tyreek has the last 2 weeks. Neighbors has 10 and 10, and just so you know, Tyreek has had 10 and 10. But I see that he also hasn't had a touchdown. So that, the 4 weeks before his injury, he had 3 touchdowns. Hey, Gavin, thank you for the rose, Gavin. I'm just making a list here. All right, so I think Neighbors will be used more. I think his numbers will improve. I don't love Daniel Jones as the quarterback. I don't love their offense right now, but I think with Tyrone Tracy sort of replacing Singletary in their run game, I think that's a good thing. The other thing, too, is Slayton, the wide receiver, I think has been taking away some of the targets from Neighbors, so there is a little bit of that going on. But again, I hate to say, I think this is the week for him, because then it's never the week for him, number one. Then I look like a, Bobo the Clown. But I would say that, Neighbors gets you at least 10 points. I see where there is momentum behind him, and I could see where, he scores a touchdown and he gets that 10 points that he's been getting anyway, and you end up getting at least 16 points, okay? So I do see that happening. I mean, he was a big part of their offense before the injury. There's no reason to think that he won't be, in a game or two. All right, and then you were asking about Bucky Irving. Let me just see what he's been doing. They went up against Kansas City. Kansas City is one of the toughest teams for a running back to face. He only had 4.9 points, but Kansas City doesn't give up. I mean, Kansas City, I'm not going to look it up because it'll slow everything down, and I got a lot of people waiting, but Kansas City is like number one against running backs, okay, their defense. But before that, he had 11.9, 15, 17.5. He does have a toe injury, so you might make this trade, and he might not play, or he might be limited, whatever the case is. But I think it's a good trade because Mason basically goes away in 2 weeks. So you're trading Puka to get Neighbors and Bucky Irving. I would say that's a good trade for you. I mean, it's not like it's a total steal. Like Neighbors and Bucky aren't like, you know, Jefferson and Derrick Henry, but it's a good trade. I mean, I could see where some people might think that Puka and Neighbors are similar, although Neighbors' numbers, like I said, are down, and Puka has more of a reputation. But yeah, I think that's a good trade, definitely. All right, Chris, let me look up Mike Nev. He was next in line. Paper Crane. Yeah, thank you for the Paper Crane, Amanda. I just saw that. For some reason, I thought you chatted about that. Chris, thank you for the roses. I really appreciate it. Brandon says, thank you, sir. You're welcome, and thank you. Thank you again, Chris, for the 19 roses just now. I'm actually going to get my nails done. We can come back to mine later. Okay. Well, I think we got to yours, though. I don't know if you heard it. You can always, Amanda, if you're still around, you can just DM me. All right. So we're looking for Mike Nev, Apple user, and Colin and Gavin. Mike Nev. Okay. Waddle or Ricky Pearsall? Okay. Well, we're not looking at two guys on fire. I mean, Ricky Pearsall had 3.6, 9.7. Okay. The only way I would start Pearsall is if I knew for a fact that Debo wasn't playing. So you'll have to check Debo's injury report. That's the only way I would feel comfortable saying, oh, start Pearsall if Debo's not ready to go this weekend. Okay, so that's number one. Don't forget, guys, on YouTube and TikTok, hit that like button. We're not even at 2,000 yet on TikTok. So, and then also don't forget to hit follow on TikTok, because that way you know when I'm on live. And I go live Monday through Thursday, sometimes Friday, Saturday, somewhere between 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern time, and then sometimes on Sunday. Last week I went live before kickoff on Sunday, and it was a pretty good show, I think, on TikTok. So, but the only way I would go with Pearsall is if Debo is out, and Waddle might be a little bit safer pick, although he has not put up very good numbers since Tua's come back. He's had 6.5 and 6.6. So here's sort of the way I look at it. And they're playing the Rams. The Rams against wide receivers, I've written this down, but are 27. So Waddle has a favorable matchup. Pearsall goes against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is not very good. They're 29. So they're pretty close. The Rams are 27th worst, and Buccaneers are 29th worst. That means they give up the most fantasy points against wide receivers. So I would look at it like this. Waddle is kind of a safe pick. You know he's going to get you at least 6 points, which in a 10-team league is not very good. But if you're looking at Pearsall and Waddle, my feeling, Mike Nevis, you might be in a bigger league than 10 teams, okay? Because you're not asking me about Nico Collins or Tank Dell. You're asking me about Ricky Pearsall, although maybe you're a risk taker to begin with, and Waddle is not Tyreek Hill. You know, he's a notch kind of below him, if you will, points-wise anyway. And so if you're in like a 14-team league, you can put Waddle in as sort of the safe bet. It's a little bit lower than you'll want. You could put Pearsall in as a riskier pick, and you don't have to worry about Debo quite as much. Either way, you can kind of put him in as a riskier pick. But I would only play Ricky if Debo is out. Plus, there's a good chance CMC plays and he catches the ball out of the backfield. So he'll probably be competing against Pearsall for some catches. And so Waddle is more of a safe pick, steady pick, if you will. And Pearsall is more of a gamble. And if you're okay gambling, then, you know, you can put him in there. There's not a lot of data telling me that Waddle's going to give you much more than 6 points. Week 1, he had 13.7. Then he had 6, 4, 5, 6, 1.6, 6.5, 6.6. Those last two numbers are with Tua as the quarterback. So I'm not like, oh, Waddle's got momentum behind him. I mean, he'll give you 6 points, but can he give you much more than that? I don't know. All right, Mike Nev. I hope that answers your question. If it didn't, if you have additional questions, please feel free to DM me on TikTok. I am taking those as free. Okay, Colin has more thoughts, and I will get back to you, Apple user, but I just saw Colin. My thoughts were BTJ still has his bye, and his playoff schedule is really tough. Oh, we already did that one, didn't we? Okay. Let's see here. I'm looking for Apple user and Colin and Gavin. Apple user, Colin. How can I improve? This is Colin again. Hurts is a great quarterback. Brown. Okay, Brown. Why am I not picking up a name here? Oh, AJ Brown. For some reason, I kept thinking Chase Brown. I'm like, no, but that's where he has a wide receiver. Okay. Hurts, AJ Brown, great. BTJ, little inconsistent. I'm assuming Derrick Henry and J.K. Dobbins. Laporta, Hawkinson. You might want to think about. You got Dell, Tyrone Tracy, Stevenson, Lockett. Really, the way I look at it is your weaknesses are possibly your tight ends. Let me just look up Laporta and Hawkinson. I don't think they're bad. I'm just saying that teams now with Otten and Bowers and Andrews, their tight ends are putting up. Yeah, Laporta's just wildly inconsistent. In a 10-team league, you want your tight end to get you at least 7 points. He's only done that 2 of the last 4 weeks. He's had 11, 3, 13.8, and 3.8. So only 2 of 4 weeks has he gotten you the 7 points. Now, Hawkinson was just coming back this past week. I haven't even looked him up yet. So what were his numbers? He had 4. Okay, so it's going to be a question of who do you start which week between Hawkinson and Laporta. It's going to be a lot of matchup based for them. I think you might be able to squeeze out 7-ish points week in and week out, but you're going to have to figure out who they're playing or if one has more momentum, those kinds of things. Now, I can also see where since Hawkinson was back after a long injury, maybe they sort of limited him a little bit, but I think, he could have good value. He's a good tight end, or he was before the injury at least. But I think BTJ is your weakest link, Colin. Hurts is fantastic, 20 points, 30 points. AJ Brown, fantastic. Henry, fantastic. Dobbins, you could maybe improve there. I mean, you could theoretically do I'm just making this up, but you could do Dobbins and Dell, let's say, depending upon what the other team needs, or Dobbins and Tracy and trade for well, if you did Dobbins and Tracy, you could maybe ask for Kyren Williams. Well, you could definitely ask for Kyren Williams. You could maybe ask for Bijan Robinson. You could maybe ask for Saquon Barkley if you did Dobbins and Tracy. If you did Dobbins and Dell, maybe you could ask for a Joe Mixon, a Kenneth Walker. They're a little bit better than Dobbins. BTJ, you could package up BTJ and how's Lockett been doing? Are people gonna jump at the chance to get him? I know, Apple user, I will get to you. Lockett's been really inconsistent. But he has had some good weeks. So you could maybe package up BTJ and Lockett for BTJ and Lockett. Maybe you could go after Nico Collins, although he's kind of elite, but he's been out for a while. BTJ and Lockett for Nico. I wouldn't go for anybody on Green Bay. DK is a little sketch because he's been injured. Nico, maybe you could do BTJ and Dell or Lockett and try to get Puka. That might work. You could do that. Or you could do BTJ and Lockett and try to get Garrett Wilson. Because Garrett Wilson, actually, if you look at his numbers over the last 4 weeks, he's been doing really well since Davante Adams came in. I'll just pull that up, but because he's on, like, I think I have 3 teams and he's on all of them. Okay, the last 5 weeks, 22, 20, 10.6, so average, 13.8, 25 this past week. He's been putting up really good numbers. So you could theoretically say BTJ and Lockett or Dell for Garrett Wilson. I think that would not be a bad trade. All right, Colin, I hope I answered that. Apple user, I'm going to look for you. And Gavin, I'll look for you. And then we're going to be caught up on all the gifting. All you have to do is send me a rose. Costs 1 coin. I think that's like 1 penny. So I'm not asking anyone to break a bank. Let's see here. I'm not seeing Apple user or Gavin. Apple user or Gavin. Apple user or Gavin. Apple user or Gavin. Okay, I'm not seeing it, which means one of 3 things is happening. You either didn't send it, I didn't see it, or TikTok filtered it, but it's weird. They filter. Oh, T, I do see your question a lot. Thank you for the 2 roses. Should I start Bengals tight end on flex or Pickens? So, and when you say Bengals tight end, I'm not trying to be rude. That's the last thing I was trying to do. You're talking about Gesicki, right? I'm assuming you're talking about Gesicki. Should I start Bengals tight end on flex or Pickens? I would start Pickens because Pickens is going to have more value because he knows the offense and they just got Mike Williams. It's going to take some pressure off of him. Gesicki has been, first of all, to start a tight end at flex, the tight end has to be like putting up Kittle numbers, okay? And Gesicki has had good weeks. He had a really good week last week, but it was against Vegas. Vegas is a really bad team, okay? Before last week, he had 0 touchdowns. Last week, he scored 2 touchdowns, and he had 100 yards receiving, all right? So what I'm saying is last week is a little bit of an outlier. I would start Pickens in the flex. It's hard for me to say, well, let me look at this. Baltimore against tight ends, though, is not very good. I know that. Or do I know that? Or are they really good? Hold on here. I'm looking up what Baltimore does against, okay, they're 19 out of 20. So they're not too tough. They're middle of the road, a little less, maybe. Pickens, Pittsburgh goes up against Washington against wide receivers. Let me just see. Commanders are 11 for points against wide receivers. And the Ravens are 19. I mean, it is a big difference, 11 or 19. Now, I know it's 2 different categories, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, but 11's pretty good, I just think, well, let me do this. Shoot, let me do this. Let me look up Pickens. No, that ain't going to help me. Yeah, let me look up Pickens real quick. And this is T. I'll look for Gavin and Apple user again. Sorry if I didn't get to you guys. Okay, they go up against Washington. Okay, Pickens is a little inconsistent. They did get Mike Williams from the Jets. Pickens had 9 points last week, 19, 6, 4, 12. But in the 2 games since Wilson has played, he had 19 the first and 9 the next. I think it's going to make him better. We've seen this now where one team will get maybe a little bit, a really good receiver of some sort like Deontay versus Flowers, both on Baltimore, or the way Garrett Wilson is still putting up really good points, even though they got Devontae Adams. And even if you could look at what is it, Keon Coleman and Shakir in Buffalo after they got Amari Cooper, their numbers have done pretty well. I don't think last week as much, but let's see. I would go though, T. I really have a hard time saying start a tight end at flex. And that's why I want to say Pickens. Now, Pickens has a better defense to go up against, a tougher defense to go up against. But I do think he will have, I think he'll get you more points than Gesicki will. And since in that regard, they're equal in a flex position, that's why I would go with Pickens. Because even if Pickens gets you 9 points, that's a pretty good day for Gesicki. That's an average to bad day for Pickens. All right, I'm going to look for Apple user and Gavin, and then after that we would be caught up with Higgins out too. Well, hold on a second. Is Higgins definitely out? Oh, he's doubtful. Oh, doubtful for Thursdays. Listed as doubtful. Missed the Bengals. Okay, so Higgins is out. You're right. I thought he was playing. Let me just look up something real quick. I mean, you could make the point that, about a month ago, I knew his name. Ishivas? Andre Ishivas, I think it is. Ishivas. He had 7.5 points. Gesicki had 24. Gesicki has consistently a strong performance whenever T. Higgins has been sidelined, and he may have another opportunity to take the field without his teammate due to the short turnaround before week 10. Okay, well, I guess you'll have to watch and see. But with T. Higgins out, yeah, I do think Gesicki. Then you're right. I think Gesicki would have more value than Pickens. Although I think Pickens will have a good game, but I think with Higgins out, for some reason in my head, I had it that Higgins would be playing, but he's obviously not going to play. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I appreciate when look, I can't know everything, like I know a lot of these guys sit here and you give them 2 names, they pick one out. You give them 2 names, they pick them out. They tell you which trade. Like, I try to get to know, I try to look at the analytics. I try to do a little analysis, look at the context, who they're playing, what the rank is. But yeah, I would go with Gesicki in that standpoint. And it's a better matchup as well. So, and thank you for adding that to me. I really do appreciate it. For some reason, I was thinking that Higgins was going to play, but with it being a Thursday matchup, and it doesn't look like he's going to play right now from what I'm reading. So thank you very much. All right, T, thank you very much. Don't forget, guys, on TikTok, hit that like button. We only have 2,000 likes. Let's get more likes. Also, don't forget to follow. I go live Monday through Thursdays. Thank you, T, for the roses. I go live Monday through Thursdays, sometimes Friday, Saturdays, somewhere between 11 a.m., 12 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you again, T, for the roses and for adding into that about Higgins. That was a great point you made. I really appreciate it. So yeah, don't forget to hit follow. That way you know when I'm on and you can join, ask a question. If you started to follow or if you've gifted in the past, you have a good chance of me reading. If you gift anytime you move to the front of the line, it's like your golden ticket. Let me just look for Apple user and Gavin real quick, and then if I don't find them again, we will be all caught up on gifting, I believe, unless T is another question, which is fine. And then if that's the case, we'll be going to like people who have gifted in the past or who follow. I'm looking for Gavin. Gavin and Apple user. Gavin and Apple user. All right. All right. Brandon, did you have a question or you just being super nice? I did not. Apple user and Gavin, I did not see a question from you. So it's one of three things. I missed it. You didn't send one. TikTok filtered it out, but that's like the second time I've looked. So I have a feeling you might just be nice and not have sent it. Dylan, how you doing, buddy? All right, let me see. Brandon, did you have another question? I don't see another question from Brandon, so I'm going to go to people who've gifted in the past or who follow, those kinds of things. Let's see. I'm close to people here. Let me just go here and look since I have to do this on my phone. Stephen M., you are next. Stephen Murphy, thank you for the roses. Where's Stephen's question? All right. Lamb and Monty and Addison for Chase and Harris. Lamb and Monty and Addison. Addison had a good game last game. Before that, or he had a decent game. You know what? I know that he caught a lot of passes. I don't know what his points were. I was just watching the game, so let me just see. Addison had 13.6 points and he had a touchdown, 42 yards receiving. So he got to 13 points. So that's good, as you all know, because in a 10-team league, you want to get 13 points. Monty puts up solid numbers. Lamb's value has decreased. I'm assuming you're giving Lamb, Monty, and Addison up to get Chase and Harris. And I'm assuming when you say Chase, you're talking Jamar Chase, Stephen Murphy, because otherwise I would say don't do this deal. But Lamb and Monty and Addison for Chase and Harris. The only issue I have is I want to say that Monty's better than Harris. Najee Harris, that is. Najee's had the last 3 weeks 19, 16, 14, which is great. Montgomery, he was hurt one of those. Well, that might have been 3 weeks ago. People invite me to, I don't even know who they are. Okay, he had 11. No, invite you to co-host. No, I don't want to co-host. I will later, maybe. Okay, Montgomery's been a little bit more. Oh, Brandon's back. Montgomery's been a little bit more inconsistent. 11, 14, 6.5. Those are his last 3 games going backwards. Okay, and Addison. All right. I'm glad I looked that up, though, because let me just look up Harris real quick. So I know that what I'm thinking is right or wrong. I mean, he's been 14, 16, 19, 8. He's been much better, or he's been more consistent with Russell Wilson as the quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, if it's Jamar Chase and Harris, I think it's a good trade. I don't think that, because you also have to understand that Dak Prescott's going to come back. He's on IR for 4 to 6 weeks. He could be back in 4 weeks, and then Lambs will have value again, and you'll probably you might not be in your fantasy playoffs, but you'll be heading into the playoffs. So just know that going in. Right now, his value's this much, but there's a chance he's back in 4 weeks. All right. So Lamb could have value. Monty's been inconsistent. Addison is inconsistent. All right. Chase actually did not have a good game last game because I have him on one of my teams, but he's relatively consistent, and that's a good offense if it's Jamar Chase and not Chase Brown, which I'm assuming. And then Najee Harris has been more consistent than Monty. So yeah, I think it's a good trade. I don't think you're winning by a ton. I think, like, if I had to grade the trade, hey Andrew, thank you very much for the rose. I think if I had to grade the trade, I'd give you like a 9. That you're getting Chase and Harris and you're giving away like 8.5. It's not like you're getting a 9 and you're giving away talent that's like a 7.5 or anything like that. There's not that much of a difference, but it is a good trade and you should do well with it. So thank you for asking, Stephen, and sending the rose, or roses, I should say. Thank you very much. And I know that you've supported past, and I appreciate that. And you're thanking me, and I thank you for again. All right, Brandon and Andrew. Brandon, I'm just looking to see if you had any new questions because you did send gifts. Otherwise, we're going to be caught up, and I'll be looking for people who followed or who have gifted in the past. And I'm not seeing Andrew or Brandon, so I'm going to go to people who've gifted in the past. Patrick, is Bigsby a drop at this point? Oh, Lego, you'll be next. Is Bigsby? Thank you, Brandon. Did you have a question, Brandon? Or I'll look for you again. But Patrick, is Bigsby a drop? Yeah, I mean, if you can get something better on the waiver wire, I would drop Bigsby. Yes. The same goes for ETN. That's where we are with both of them at this point. Let's hit that like button. We're at 2,900. Let's get to 3,000. Also, don't forget to hit follow, not only when we're caught up on all the gifts, after we get the Lego. I think it's Lego. Oh, Brandon has one more question. Okay, Brandon, let me get to you because you did send something before Lego. Got one more question. I'll be done. Mark Andrews, Worthy or Downs start at the flex? Okay. Again, I'm not a huge fan of starting tight ends at the flex. Oh, I got to go back. But, Andrews had 14, 18, 12.1, and then 3.6 this past week. Let's just see. So Andrews is going to get more time because Likely is out with a hamstring. So he'll have probably a good amount of points. I would not use Worthy at all. I'm trying not to be biased. I just don't think Worthy has much value right now. He did not look very good in that game. He was out of bounds when he should have probably had both feet in very early in the game for a touchdown. He caught that ball with only 1 foot in bounds. There was another time something similar. Let me look up Downs. But right now I'm thinking Andrews of all the people. But let me just look at Downs real quick. Downs has been inconsistent. That's the only thing. And their quarterback situation scares me. Let's see. Buffalo against, the Bills are number 4. Yeah, I would go with Andrews. Let's see. They go against Cincinnati. Cincinnati against tight ends. The Bungles. They're 28th out of 32. Yeah, so Andrews should have a pretty good game. All right, that was Brandon. Let me go to Lego. Sorry about that, Lego. Oh, Colin has a question. Okay, Colin, I will, because you did send a coin. Is Keenan Allen a drop? Yes, Keenan Allen is a drop. Yes, no doubt about it. Get somebody better. All right, that was an easy one. Oh, Andrew had James Conner or Debo in flex. I would go James Conner. Debo's way more inconsistent. Connor's been much more consistent. Chickner is after Lego. I'm looking for Lego's question, but then I keep seeing people who I didn't see earlier. Okay, I see Chickner, but let me just see if Lego. I thought Lego had a question. Andrew. Chickner. Okay, I'll get to you, Chickner. Remember, if you send a gift, you jump to the front of the line, although some people may argue with me that they didn't get to the front of the line, but you moved up. Okay. Reezy something. I don't know what the rest of that is. I'm looking for Lego. I see where Lego gift or hearted me or gifted me, whatever you want to call it. But Lego, I'm not seeing a question, so it's one of three. I missed it. You didn't have one, or silly TikTok filtered it out. Okay, so now I'm looking up for Chickner. I know Chickner. I've seen Chickner's questions. Jonah loves to fish. All right. Well, maybe if I can. I see Reezy. I've seen Chickner. Where is Chickner's question? Andrew Reiner. Hey, Dylan. Thank you very much. I'll get to you after Reezy. I'm looking for Chickner. Okay. Would you trade McConkey for Brian Robinson Jr.? Have Barkley, Monty, and Mossert? Okay, so are you getting rid of Chickner, Brian Robinson Jr., and you're getting McConkey? Because you have Barkley, Monty, and Mossert. You have good running backs. So my assumption is you're actually getting rid of Brian Robinson and you're getting McConkey. I'm assuming that's the case. The only thing I would say about that is, and if anybody's listened to me for a while tonight or any night really, you hear me say consistent, inconsistent, steady. I think Brian Robinson Jr., although he was out, I think he was injured, he's relatively more consistent. Now, 2 weeks ago, I want to say maybe he got hurt, maybe he didn't. They were going up against Chicago. So last week he was hurt, didn't play. 2 weeks ago, he had 8 points. The week before that, 13. Then he didn't play. Then he had 13, 18, 10, 14, 16. Brian Robinson Jr. is very consistent. In a 10-team league, you won 13 or more points. He, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's done that 5 of 7 weeks that he's played. So I like Brian Robinson Jr. from that vantage point. I don't think getting McConkey is enough for Brian Robinson Jr. I'll be very honest with you. McConkey is not consistent. If you're getting McConkey, and I get the feeling you are, Chickner, because you're saying that your trade, the trade is McConkey for Brian Robinson Jr., and you're telling me 3 running backs you have. So my guess is you're getting rid of Brian Robinson Jr. I would try to get somebody better. I mean, Brian Robinson Jr. Okay, let's think about this. Somebody good that you could. Garrett Wilson might be a stretch. Nico Collins is definitely a stretch. Puka Cup may be a stretch for Brian Robinson Jr. Might be, but you have to see how much they want a running back that's, any good. Let's see. You could do Sutton. Hey, Dylan, thank you for more of that. So Lego, I didn't see. Chickner, I'm answering now. You could do Sutton with Denver. He's been putting up some good points. Trade Sutton for Brian Robinson Jr. And he's been putting up some good points. McConkey has just been, like I said, he's been inconsistent. I know a lot of people like to. Oh, man. I mean, McConkey has had 8 point. We're going backwards now. 8.9, 26, 7.1, 6.3. Are you going to start him, Chickner? 3 of the 4 weeks, he hasn't. Now, if you're in a 14 or 16 team league, he might be good enough with 8.9, but only one of the last 4 weeks has he gotten over 13 points. Now he got 26, he doubled it, but it's like, why burn all your money in one round? I would rather have 13 and 13 than 26 with him. He's so inconsistent. I would try to get somebody better for Brian Robinson Jr. I think you could Puka, Cooper Kupp, like I said, maybe Nico, maybe Garrett Wilson. DK Metcalf's injured, but you might be able to trade for him. Sutton with Denver, as I mentioned, would be a good target. He's been consistent over the last few weeks. It's basically as the quarterback goes, so does Sutton, but he's had 19-13, then he didn't play, then he had 13, he had 4, then he had 13-10, and then the first couple of weeks when Bo Nix was really bad, he had bad points. But when Bo Nix has been good, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 of the last 6 weeks, and the last 3 of the last 4 games he's played, he's gotten 13 or more points. I would try to go after Cortland Sutton, actually, for Brian Robinson Jr. I think that's a super fair trade. And if you need a wide receiver, he's a really good one. And he's showing right now that he is consistent. Woo! Okay, that was Chickner. I got to do Reezy and Dylan. Reezy, Dylan, and Lego, actually. Thoughts on Khalil Herbert? Like everything comes full circle. I talked about him when I first jumped on tonight. Khalil Herbert is just going to relieve Chase Brown. And to be honest with you, here's the other thing about Chase Brown, and I haven't said this tonight until just now. Chase Brown, for the rest of his schedule, whatever it is, I think it's 7 games that they play. For the rest of his schedule, goes against 6 of the 7 weeks. Chase Brown and or Khalil Herbert go against 6 of those 7 opponents. So the majority of the opponents have a top 15 defense against running backs. So they have a pretty tough schedule for the rest of the year. So I mean, if Khalil Herbert has a great game, maybe you look at him, but he's not going to get the bulk of the carries unless Chase Brown gets injured, number one. Number two, he's really there to relieve him, come in on third downs, or maybe he'll, come out of the backfield and catch the ball, although he hasn't done that too much. I mean, he's only had 8 attempts all year, and receiving wise, he's had 2 targets. So there's not a lot from this year, and obviously he's on a new team, so there's not a lot to look at from that vantage point. I am not advocating, because there's so much unknown, to pick him up. Now, if he has a good game and or Chase Brown is injured for the season, yeah, maybe you pick him up. But he's there to really be a relief runner, in my mind. All right, Dylan, and Reezy, if by chance I didn't fully explain myself or answer it, please send me a DM on TikTok. I don't want to, and thank you again for the gifts. I really do appreciate that. All right, I'm looking for Dylan. Where is Dylan's question? Oh, Lego. There we go, Lego. All right. No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for supporting me. Lego Franklin, Mason or Guerendo? That's a tough question for obvious reasons. Jordan Mason or his teammate. Hey, Chickner, thank you for the rose. Guerendo. I'm not going to spell this right. Nope. I got the first 3 letters right. Okay, Guerendo did get 17 points last week. He had 85 yards rushing and a touchdown. Wrong direction. Jordan Mason, who has been banged up supposedly, he's had 1.8, 7.9, 8.7, 8.3. But you have to remember that both of these guys will be fighting for time on the field because CMC probably comes back this week. So whatever they did last week, you got to sort of water that down by, I don't know, 30, 40, 50%. Because you figure, my guess is CMC probably won't be, at all. He won't be in for the same average number of snaps that he was last year. Okay. He might be at 80%. Maybe they water him down to 60%. What does that do for these two guys? It waters them down. I actually think, though, that Guerendo might be in between Mason and CMC. So I would say Guerendo is probably going to get more opportunity / more snaps than Jordan Mason, because Mason has just been going like this. He hasn't gotten double digits since week 4 when he got 23. So he's really dropped off. All right, Lego, I'm glad I found that. And if you have any other questions, just please feel free to DM me. All right, Chickner has another question, but let me try to find Dylan. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jonathan Taylor for Tyreek Hill and Josh Jacobs. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jonathan Taylor for Tyreek Hill and Josh Jacobs. Okay, Marvin Harrison Jr. is very inconsistent to the point where he would not be on any of my teams except one of my teams. He's undroppable. That stupid thing that they do. So I can't drop him, which I can't stand. And I don't know, I've never really dealt with it, to be honest with you, like this. So I should probably look into it if I can appeal to somebody or something, but I can't drop him. I dropped him on my other team. He's highly inconsistent. And why that's a problem is, I didn't play him. He scored 20 points. Well, I'm going to play him this week. He scores 3. Well, when you score 3 points in your wide receiver, your flex, you got to make up 10 points somewhere else, because my recipe is your receivers and your wide receivers and your running back and your flex get you 13 or more points. Your quarterback gets you 19 or more points. Your defense, your kicker 10 or not. Yeah, your defense or kicker 10, and your tight end is 7 points or more. So happy that you're trading away Marvin Harrison. Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs have similar numbers. Taylor might have a little bit higher ceiling where he might, put up more points. But Josh Jacobs, I looked this up earlier tonight. That I'm not just saying things off the top of my head. I had the same question between Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor. Josh Jacobs might get you 13 or 14 points almost week in and week out. Jonathan Taylor might get you 8, but then he might get you 22. Okay, so there's risk with Jonathan Taylor. You're getting rid of Harrison, it sounds like, and getting rid of Taylor. You're getting rid of that risk a little bit. You're getting Tyreek, who has underperformed up until now, and you got to figure, and I hate to say this because it's sort of the if he plays well, the points will come, but Tyreek has put up 10 points each of the last 2 weeks. That's not good enough in a 10-team league. You want 13 or higher. But it's Tyreek Hill. You figure with Tua, if Tua can stay healthy, hopefully he can get back on the wagon and get 17, 18 points or 14 points every weekend. But we have to see that. I don't have the data for that. The other thing about Tyreek Hill is Tua's one big hit away from probably being out the rest of the season. All right. When you get so many concussions, it's way easier to get more concussions. I like the idea, though, of getting Tyreek Hill, who is, in my mind, with Tua, much more consistent and a better wide receiver than Marvin Harrison, points-wise, that is. Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, as I explained. Taylor might have a higher ceiling, more upside, but Josh Jacobs gives you that consistency, while Jonathan Taylor also is very much more inconsistent. All right, we're at 4,500 likes. That's awesome. Keep hitting that like button. I see a bunch of hearts going. Don't forget to follow. It's very important that you follow, so that way you know when I'm on. I'm doing my live. I go live Monday through Thursday, sometimes Friday, sometimes Sunday, and I go live on Saturdays, usually between 11 a.m. and somewhere in the window of 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., so noon on Saturdays Eastern time. All right, so that was Dylan. Have I caught up? No way, I've caught up. All right, so if you want, oh wait, no, I got Chickner because he sent me another rose. I'm giving up McConkey to get Robinson. I have Chase, London, Moore. DJ Moore has not been doing well though, Chickner. DJ Moore, his last 3 weeks, I don't think he's put up over 7 points. DJ Moore's last 3 weeks, 5.3, 4.4, 4. Those are nowhere near where you want them to be, okay? Amari Cooper, Coleman probably. Now, you might be in a 16-team league, and so it's not a bad deal. Oh, you're giving up McConkey to get Robinson. Okay. My head's all over the place. I have ADHD, and it gets really bad because I have 2 computers going because I'm on YouTube and I'm on TikTok. I'm using this with my phone because for some reason the computer I bought to run TikTok was giving me 3 people at a time to watch. Now I have 46, so that's why I did that. Okay. You're giving up McConkey to get Robinson. All right. You have Jamar Chase, you have Drake London. Good. London's been a little inconsistent. I would really think about upgrading Moore and Coleman, though, Chickner. Keon Coleman, he had 2 weeks that were pretty good there, but I don't know if he's going to be able to replicate that. I was advocating for people to use him, but he had 11, 4, 14, 15, 4. Well, Miami's not bad, though. Well, we'll have to see. I mean, if you can hold him, that's fine. But DJ Moore has not been doing real good. I mean, DJ Moore is pretty much just sitting on your bench. His last 3 weeks have been abysmal. So you might want to think about trading Moore and Amari Cooper for someone like a Tank Dell. Or maybe you want to, Amari Cooper's probably better than Tank Dell, though, really. Maybe Moore and Amari Cooper for like Cooper Kupp. Maybe you could do that. That way you have Chase, London, and Cooper Kupp, because London's been a little inconsistent. I'm just saying how you can upgrade your receiving core. Moore is not doing the job. Amari Cooper is probably helping Keon Coleman out more than he's helping himself out, but I would keep Amari Cooper. I'm not advocating that you get rid of him. But DJ Moore and Coleman, there might be some question marks. Maybe, like I said, if you can bundle them up, you might get something for them. All right, I think we're all caught up on gifting. How long have I been doing this? Oh, my God. Okay. Guys, I've been doing this for like 2 hours or so, and we're all caught up. Mahomes or Tua week 10, Olivia asks. I'll get this. This will be the last one, and then I'm going to jump off. I would go Mahomes because he's shown that he can do 20, get over 20 finally, and who do they play? They play Denver. Let me look up Tua real quick. Denver's very good against passing, and okay. The Rams. Okay, let's just see what the Rams do with quarterbacks. Rams quarterback points. Where are we at here? Are tight. Whoa. I had this in the wrong direction. The Rams are tied for 25th. So they're 25th, the Rams defense for quarterbacks. Okay. So that is good for Tua. That's a good matchup. Miami versus the Rams. It's good for Tua. Denver's not going to be so good. Denver's number 4. So my guess is with Mahomes, Olivia, is that he might revert back to that 14 and 15 points every week. I like Mahomes. Don't get me wrong. The last 2 weeks he had 19 points and then because of the overtime, I think he was able to get 24, 25 points. So he actually started putting up numbers that were incredible. Or good for him. Hey, Damian, we got a heart. We will, Damian, Olivia will not be the last one. So I think based on the matchup against Denver, Mahomes might revert back to that 14 or 15 points. And Tua has more of an upside because he goes against a Rams defense that's 25th out of 32 for quarterback points, meaning they give up the 25th most compared to the fourth most with Denver and Mahomes. So I would go with Tua this week based on the matchup. And it's got to be time Tua puts up a big number, right? But I don't like to predict those things because they're not the case. Okay, we're looking for Damien. You're welcome, Olivia. Thank you for your support. Damien asks Higgins, Amari, and Cook for Henry and Moore. Higgins, Amari, and Cook. Now, Damien, you're talking DJ Moore. DJ Moore doesn't have much value. I just looked this up. I'm sure a lot of people who are on right now heard me say this, or at least 20 people, let's say, maybe not a lot. DJ Moore's had 4, 4, and 5 the last 3 weeks. He's nosediving. He's not having a very good year. Okay. Henry obviously is. Now, if someone traded you Higgins and James Cook for Derrick Henry, I would take it. Okay. Higgins and Cook for Henry. If I had Higgins and Cook and I could get Derrick Henry, I would probably make that deal because it's a massive upgrade from Cook. Higgins has been out. I think he'll put up good numbers, 13, 14 points. I think Cook puts up 13, 14 points, but Henry really solidifies that. And my guess is that you actually have, other people that you're starting right now that wouldn't, for instance, Cook is putting up 13, 14 points. Henry takes that spot. Then are you starting Amari and Higgins? If you are, I hope you have a few people that can fill in because Moore's not going to fill in for them at wide receiver. I mean, because you're getting Moore, I would Higgins and Cook for Henry and Moore. If you're getting Henry and Moore, I think it's an upgrade. See, I would almost say if someone I would almost say like if you're giving Amari and like Higgins, Amari and Cook, I would almost say give me Amari and Cook or give me Higgins and Cook for Henry and get rid of the Amari and Moore. Amari's a little inconsistent because he's kind of used as, bait kind of for others on the Bills. Higgins is going to come back and probably put up 10 to 14 points every week. Cook puts up 13, 14 points every single week. Okay. Moore is almost a throwaway in this because once you get Moore, you're going to want to dump him unless he miraculously comes back and out of this funk that he's in. But right now, I would not have kept Moore on my team. Okay. Because the last 3 weeks, he's literally totaled 3 weeks. He's totaled 13 points. So I would almost just say, look, Higgins and Cook for Henry. That's the way I would look at it. Or I would go Amari and Cook for Henry. That way you at least have Higgins. So Amari and Cook for Henry. Try to get that. Moore doesn't do anything for you. He has zero value right now. Anyway, Damien, if you want to discuss this any further or you have any additional questions, you can DM me on TikTok. As of this year, I'm not charging any. I have subscriptions, and if anybody wants to subscribe, that would be fantastic. But it's more supporting me right now. Eventually, I need to say, look, if you want to send me DMs, subscribe, and I will respond to those. And you can send me up to like 4 or 5 or 2 to 4 questions, 2 or 3 times a day. Most of the time people send me things every day or every other day, and I'm fine with it. But Anyway, I'm going to go. I've been online for about 2 hours and I'm completely brain dead. But I want to thank you, Damien. I want to thank Olivia. I want to thank all the other gifters, Lego, Chickner, Reezy, Dylan, Brandon, Andrew, Gavin, Apple user, Colin, Chris is sorry, I just like sort of goofing around with that. Mike Nev, Amanda, Oak. Anyway, I will be on Thursday before kickoff. I'll be on tomorrow night before kickoff, so watch me then. Usually I go live a little after 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm in Central Time Zone, so I'm off work and then I can start. Anyway, everybody have a good night. Thank you for watching.